Like I was saying, this is a week early, because it's only been a week since the last one of these I did, and it was only supposed to be episode 5 of Daredevil that aired today. So imagine my surprise, 6 in the morning, cup of tea in hand, I go to Disney Plus, and I see that there's 2 episodes available. Episodes 5 and 6 of the reworked kind of Frankenstein's monster. I think these originally were going to be episodes 3 and 4, and my basis for that is that quote that I found on the Wikipedia page, I believe, which said Matt didn't wear the suit until episode 4. He wears it in this version of episode 6, ergo that must be episode 4 originally and episode 3 respectively. So with that in mind, episode 5 is a bit of an odd one, and it's strange because I've seen some praise for it. I went looking. I was actually trying to find the answer as to why 2 episodes went live to see if Disney had officially said anything. I couldn't find any answer. But I did see a lot of glowing reviews for these 2 episodes. IGN, 2 thumbs up, all that good stuff. Don't know what they watched. These are not good episodes. Episode 5 is utterly redundant and pointless if this is the same Daredevil from Netflix. What Daredevil is in terms of like what Born Again was originally going to be, episode 5 was probably the episode where they wanted you to get to know this version of Matt. But because this is now the version from Netflix, we don't need a self-contained episode that's to show us who Matt is as a character, because we've had 3 seasons of it already. And although I haven't watched those seasons since they aired, besides some clips from them, I still know Matt well enough. I can describe his character and some of the motivations he has and some of the journey he's gone on. So I don't need a self-contained episode that exists solely to say Matt is a good person, Matt is fearless, and he's willing to put himself in harm's way if it means saving people. That's all the episode exists for. And you might think I'm like exaggerating. It is a self-contained bank heist episode. It doesn't even have Kingpin in it. It is purely about Matt going to a bank because he's trying to get a loan to expand his thriving business. Why he needs a loan when the business is thriving, whatever. There's also a cameo. They have Kamala Khan's father from Miss Marvel and The Marvels. I didn't watch either of those, so I'm not familiar with them, but I presume it's the same actor, etc., same character. Doing a little bit of a Miss Marvel tie-in, where Matt doesn't have any idea who it is, and then despite the fact that he knows he's talking to a blind man, Kamala's father says, "Oh, you don't know Miss Marvel? She's a hero in New Jersey," and he picks up the Funko Pop of her that he has on the desk and holds it out to Matt and says, "Look, this is her." And obviously he's just like, "Yeah, I can't see that," and he just has like a, "Oh right," like, you know he's blind. You acknowledged it earlier in the scene. I know it's a little thing, but it's like, what the hell was that? Like, there's no reason for him. Well, maybe he's portrayed as being stupid in the MCU, I don't know. I'm only familiar with him from that Avengers game by Crystal Dynamics, and he was perfectly acceptable in that, like a doting, loving father who's okay with Kamala being a hero by the end of it. Like, he came across pretty well to me. But anyway, Matt is at the bank looking for a loan for some reason, and Kamala's father is the acting manager and is unfortunately turning him down because Matt's lawyer place takes on too many free clients. I don't know what that would matter, because if they're still earning good money, where does it matter that they take on free clients? But that's the reason they turn him down. They take on too many people for free. So he gets denied, he's leaving, then he hears all these people with his super hearing. It's like, oh, people are going to rob the bank. So he walks back in as they kind of take over to make sure he is one of the hostages. And then the entire episode, and again, not exaggerating, the entire episode is that scenario. The episode ends precisely once the bank heist ends. And nothing happens. Like, really nothing happens. Kamala's father gets picked on because he's the acting manager. The actual manager isn't there. He lies and says he can open up the safe to avoid people getting hurt. Matt knows he's lying, so he's kind of whispering to him, like, "You don't actually know how to open the safe, do you?" And he admits to him, "No, I don't. I didn't know what to say." So Matt just tells him to stall so he can try and work out a situation to save them all. And the kind of head of this bank robbing crew is an Irish guy we've seen once before, killing some people. You know, he works for one of the crime families, and it seems like they're working for a Mr. Big that's not Kingpin. It's probably his wife, but they don't specify. So they're there looking for something in particular. They want into the vault and they threaten to kill the hostages. Matt alerts the police before he goes in, so at least he's smart enough to do that. And the police come, they cordon the thing off, and then there's a lot of really painful scenes where the head criminal talks to the negotiator for the police. And also the episode is on St. Patrick's Day, so there's a lot of Irish stuff, and the main villain guy is Irish as well. And this episode has the most fucks per episode there's been so far, in the sense that the Irish guy says it 3 times, I think, and I think the cop says it once, and it really comes across as forced, because the Netflix Daredevil felt very adult and it didn't say fuck once. I think at worst it says shit a few times, so you don't need, like, I feel like this is a side effect of Deadpool and Wolverine probably. It's like, oh, if we say fuck, we're adult. If we have CG blood, we're adult. If we mention murders every now and then, we're adult. Doesn't work like that. So, and also in episode 6 they get Matt to say fuck, which I didn't like either really, but it was a little funny, but we'll get to that when I talk about episode 6. Yeah, Aaron G. Sucks on the YouTube side is just saying episode 5 wasn't needed. Originally it would have made sense. That's exactly what I said before you got here. Originally this would have been the episode for Born Again where you get to know Matt's personality, but because we have the Netflix seasons, it's utterly unnecessary and a waste of time, which is probably why they released episode 6 immediately at the same time. But I'm still going to talk through episode 5, as boring as it is. What was I up to? Oh yeah, the Irish criminal guy talking to the negotiator, and he swears a lot, and that's his whole shtick. Matt keeps putting himself in this guy's way, like deliberately just talking to him. Here's his name is Matt Murdock, and it's like, oh, you're Irish as well, where are you from? And he says Hell's Kitchen, and the criminal's like, no you idiot, where are you from originally? As in, where in Ireland? And then that gets him to say, oh, I don't know, I'm an orphan. So again, this is all dialogue that would give you information about Matt if you had no idea who he was, if originally, as they planned, you only saw him as a brief cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home and in She-Hulk, although we don't talk about that one. So that would all make sense as an episode to get to know him, albeit really ham-fisted and quickly, but we know all this stuff. Towards the end of the episode, he does briefly mention his mother, who has been erased from existence. Season 3 of the Netflix Daredevil deals with the subject of his mother, who is a nun, who gave birth to him and then had the, I can't remember the name of the mental condition or the disease, but it's the condition where after a woman gives birth, they completely disassociate from their child and don't even have any feelings for it. So she had that condition, and that's why he grew up with his father. His father was still a boxer in the original version of what they had planned, because he mentions that. Postpartum depression, that's what it was. So his mother had that. And he discovers who his mother is in season 3, and she's just nowhere to be found. They didn't get her back. I don't know if the actress perhaps passed away. No idea. But yeah, you find out all this stuff, and I guess it's there also if you didn't watch the Netflix Daredevil, but they've had it on Disney Plus for a long time now leading up to this, so I don't think there's much of an excuse for not having watched what is technically supposed to be the history of this character. But they had all this filmed, so by gum they're gonna use it. And it's just, it doesn't work. There's a brief action sequence where Matt pretends he needs the toilet, and rather than just saying to him, alright, go on the floor then, one of the criminal gang takes him to the loo, and Matt like jumps him on the staircase and knocks him out. It's not a great action sequence. The tension is the shotgun almost falling down the stairs, which would discharge it and probably draw attention. He then rescues Kamala's father as he's trying to buy time at the vault door. The henchman who's trying to get him to do that, Matt knocks him out and then talks on the radio pretending to be that guy, putting on a really strong like Irish accent. You can still tell it's him, but the head guy doesn't notice he's not talking to his teammate, but whatever. Kamala's father never questions how Matt is able to do everything he's doing, where he's walking around like he's not blind, he's beating people up. Never questions it. It's just like, yeah, didn't even acknowledge it, actually, which was very strange. The only point of intrigue in the entire episode is when they get into the vault, because there's no money in the vault, and you actually hear that a bit earlier on. They say, oh, there's no money in this vault, it's all just safety deposit boxes. What are they after? They're after one very specific safety deposit box. Inside it is a really big, what they refer to as a diamond, despite it not being diamond shaped and also being orange. I thought it was like supposed to be like a soul stone or the mind stone, as in like the Infinity Stones. They can't be though, because in the MCU they've been destroyed. But I was like, why have they done it? Like, it looks so unique and so weirdly coloured. Like, they want you to pay attention to this thing, so it must be something. There might be more, rather, about that later. For now, there is not. Maybe it's just... Look, he's just a really good lawyer. Oh, you've actually just reminded me. That is how he acknowledges it. I just forgot they actually did reference that line. Because that's his catchphrase now, because he said it once in Netflix, and then in No Way Home. Yeah, Kamala's father, when he's walking, when he uses his super hearing to hack open the vault, like he knows how to turn the dials. And he asks, how do you do that? How did you do that? Not, how did you beat up 2 men armed with guns? How are you walking around without your stick out? But yeah, how did you manage to like hear the door and open it? That's what makes him say, oh, I'm a really good lawyer. Anyway, they have that weird gem. They do like a switcheroo, and negotiations have broken down in the meantime. And SWAT is coming in despite the fact that there's hostages. So smoke bombs get chucked in. Matt's back in the main lobby with the rest of the hostages, and the main bad guy, they're kind of doing like a twist thing. The smoke bombs come in, he sees that, he rushes into a side office and quickly starts taking off his overalls. Underneath that is a cop uniform. Whether he's actually a cop or if it's just the disguise he needs to get out, we haven't seen him be a cop, we've only seen him be a hired goon, so I don't know for sure. So he changes into a cop uniform. Somehow Matt is able to detect this after he's finished beating up the dudes with the cover of smoke, hiding what he's doing from the eyewitnesses. So he fakes needing medical attention so that he's allowed to leave and follow the guy who's now dressed as a cop. And he also notices that one of the hostages was actually in on it and was smuggled what they thought was the diamond, but Matt actually pocketed the real thing. But then eventually just gave it back to the bank in the ending of the episode, so I don't know what that was about. But anyway, this is the finale of the episode. He follows that one Irish guy, that main bad guy who abandoned his team and escaped looking like a cop, follows him into an alley, puts a mask over his head, breaks open his blind cane, and they have a little fight in an alley where for some reason there's absolutely no traffic and no people. He beats the shit out of him, and it ends with him like jumping up and smashing down on the guy's leg such that it like entirely shatters the knee and breaks his ankle. What comes of that? Does the guy get arrested? Does the guy die? Don't know. Doesn't cover that. Doesn't show what happens to him. Doesn't really show why Matt did that beyond him just being an asshole that deserved an ass kicking. Because he didn't do it to save the diamond, because he already smuggled it when he swapped it with a sweet. So he already had the diamond thing. He hadn't taken a hostage with him or anything like that, and he didn't try and get information out of him. So he beat the shit out of him, including like irreparably breaking his leg, for seemingly no reason other than revenge. And this might come up a little bit as we go into episode 6, so just keep that in mind. There did not seem to be a reason for him to do that, or be as aggressive as he was, because there was no payoff. He didn't get anything out of it. It's a filler episode now. It never used to be, but it is now. No survivors, it comes across like that, yeah. So that was episode 5. I talked about it a lot longer than I thought it would, based on, like, it's just nothing. Nothing at all. It was tedious. It was not great. It was just boring. And the hostages would have killed Matt, like, after he said, like, 4 things with how much of a dickhead he was being to them. Like, I know that he used to have no fear and that, but there's a difference between that and, like, he was willfully endangering those hostages with how much of a prick he was being to those bad guys in a situation where he would not have been able to take them out, especially not without casualties, without, you know, the smoke lets him do that towards the end of the episode. But anyway, yeah, enough about that. Kamala's father had a cameo, big deal, whatever. Episode 6 is more interesting to talk about because it focuses entirely on Muse. Interspersed with all the episodes so far, there's been a bunch of shots of murals. Like, there's one that's doing the rounds because it's triggering people. It's a picture of the Punisher logo with "triggered" written underneath it. That one's been in every episode so far, and I mean that sincerely. Literally every episode has shown that particular mural. There's one of Kingpin showing him as good side, bad side, and in this episode there's one showing him kissing a bull's arse because some of the city don't like him. So he doesn't like these murals, and he's getting real tetchy, as I think I've covered when I briefly talked about him last time, because he's by far the most boring part of this, and that is still true. he wants all these murals taken down, so it cuts to somebody using one of those power washer thingies to try and get rid of a mural. Doesn't work, so he tries putting like fiberglass in it, he says, or something. Presumably this is something people actually do to remove graffiti. Doesn't work either, so they have to go run tests on it, and this guy comes to his office and tells him, yeah, the reason none of that works is because there's human blood mixed in with the paint. I don't think human blood would have that effect, like making it immune to the ways he's been trying to clear it. But that's the... yeah, okay. I figured it was absolute nonsense that human blood would not stop that happening, but that's their thing where it's like, oh crap, there's human blood? What's up with that? So they start looking into a lot of murals, and they discover a lot of blood has been used for these murals, which is Muse's thing. He creates art using blood, apparently. So they discover that there is a serial killer that's been operating for quite some time, goes by the name Muse, and has killed upwards of 60 people. They deduced that based on the amount of blood required for the amount of murals they have found. At one point it shows two... I don't know if they're hookers. Ladies of the night. It shows two ladies of the night leaving a club or something, and they go into an alley and they see someone spray painting a wall, and they walk up to them like, oh, are you Muse? Can we get your autograph? I don't know how he has any reputation, but whatever. They do that just so he can turn and look at them with his like blood-stained eyes and stuff, and then he like leaps at them, and then it cuts, and then that's when it goes to Kingpin's office when he discovers the murals are made of blood. They're telling the mayor because the mayor's wanting to do something about it, and it specifically shows pictures of the mural finished with both those ladies dead and their eyes removed, which is, I think, a reference to the comics I was actually mentioning. In the comics, one of the things Muse does to Daredevil is use his fingers to poke out the eyeballs of Daredevil's sidekick called Blind Spot, or something similar. So the reason I'm specifically mentioning that you see those two ladies dead at the mural is because later when you see Muse's lair in the episode, there's a specific shot where it pans up and it shows he has bodies hanging on hooks on the ceiling of his lair, and it shows two bodies, and I'm fairly certain it's the same two ladies, but it can't be because he didn't take those bodies back to his lair. I need to double check. I'm not 100% sure, but it looked like the same two. There's only two, and it looks like the same two, but that would make no sense. Whatever. So a lot of dumb stuff happens in this episode, and the gist of this episode is Daredevil and Kingpin kind of embracing their inner demons and both kind of letting the demon out, or the devil out, I guess would be more apt to say. So Hector's niece, daughter, grandchild, wife, whatever she was, comes to his offices to say that, oh, before Hector died, White Tiger, he was investigating a lot of missing people. And I think I'm onto him, or I'm onto the person they were chasing, because all of them went missing around this one particular train line. And Matt asks her, like, well, why are you telling me this? And she says, oh, you've protected vigilantes in the past. Could you pass on this information to any of them? Doesn't mention Spider-Man, but does mention Punisher and Daredevil. He's like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. She gets mad at him and leaves. And she decides to go look into it on her own. So that's... and she doesn't wear her father's amulet, which means I presume the police still have possession of it. Whatever. Matt gets a call from Hector's wife saying, oh, my daughter, niece, child, whatever she is, has gone missing. And he goes to dial 911. In fact, he does dial it because the operator answers, but he's like, you can tell he's thinking, they're not going to do anything, they're not going to get there fast enough. And he just hangs up and says, fuck it. Like, he actually just says, oh, fuck it. And decides, okay, I'm going to go be Daredevil now. And that's kind of like his thing. We'll get back to that in a second. Kingpin is still getting very, very annoyed at bureaucratic nonsense. So he's getting picked on by a lot of people, and it's still eating away at him, and he's still just an emasculated bitch, unfortunately. To the point where the leader, or one of the lieutenants of the Tracksuit Mafia from Hawkeye, comes to see him in the mayoral offices and just straight up says to his face, yeah, that money you think I owe one of the other crime families? Nah, not going to pay that. Kingpin is visibly angry, his lip is quivering, he desperately wants to beat him to a pulp. And instead of doing that, because they're in the mayor's office obviously and there's people around, he says very calmly, relatively speaking, that's not how this is going to go. You will pay what you owe to the other family, and now because you've disrespected me, I'm adding another $1 million onto what you owe as tax for being rude. And this then also leads into the scene after where it's evening and he's talking to his wife about this situation. And he just says, oh, this guy came and he said he's not paying and he was very disrespectful, so I charged him an extra $1 million. Like he's seeking validation from his wife. It's pathetic. Kingpin would not only kill that man, but wipe out his entire operation first and probably his entire family for the disrespect shown. Like Leland in season 1 mildly implies that Vanessa might get hurt and that Vanessa was getting in the way of Kingpin being a crime boss, so Kingpin just murders his ass violently. Like that's the kind of man he should be, assuming this is meant to be the Netflix Kingpin, which is, they're pretending it is. But no, the Tracksuit Mafia guy is told, no, you now have to owe, I think, 2.5 million or whatever. Straight up just says to Fisk, nope, I'm not going to pay that, and leaves. Then it goes to that scene where he's talking to Vanessa, and he's talking to the rich socialites of, I was going to say Gotham, of New York, because he's looking for money for this big project for the docks. Oh, and another returning cameo in episode 6, the guy who Kate Bishop's mother is dating. I don't remember his name. He's a good actor. He likes swords, and it's the bait and switch in Hawkeye where they think, or you're supposed to think he's the bad guy, but he's not, he's just a nice guy. He's in it, because he's one of New York's rich socialites. And he's also a vigilante on the side. Someone recorded him being the swordsman, saving somebody. I don't remember his name, I wish I did, but as I say, good actor. He is the guy, I think, he played someone of note in Better Call Saul, but anyway. He's going around being a vigilante, and the point of this scene is to show that the rich elite of New York don't give a shit about Fisk. They think he's a joke. They have no interest in paying for his project to fund the docks because they think it is purely to fund his business enterprises. That's his subtle reasoning. Nothing that Kingpin has done is actually denoted that that's the truth, by the way. It feels like he might actually be sincere about wanting to help New York, but he's going to slip into nastier stuff. Tony Dalton, thank you. But anyway, the rich all tell him to get lost. They're not going to help him, and if he pushes them, they're going to fight back, is what swordsman Tony Dalton says to him, specifically. That also makes Fisk rather angry, so his method for taking out his anger is to go pick on the man he has imprisoned, which is the man who had an affair with his wife while he was gone. You see him with an axe in hand. He goes to where he's been keeping the gentleman in a cell. I have no idea where this is. I can't tell if it's a penthouse, a subway, a bat cave, I don't know. Either way, he goes there and he has this axe and he starts talking to Adam, is his name. And he says, when I was a boy, I would stand up to people twice my size. And he'd talk about the motivation being like enough to force him to power through. So he opens the cage door to Adam, he throws him the axe, takes a couple of steps back and tells him to, come at me. Because he wants to take some aggression out on someone or something and has chosen Adam, but wants it to be quote unquote fair, so gives him an axe. And Adam, desperate to escape, picks up the axe, comes at Kingpin. Kingpin easily overpowers him, beats him to a pulp. I am once again not sure whether or not Kingpin has killed this man. He's bleeding and on the floor by the end because he gets violently beaten up, but I can't tell if he's supposed to be dead or not. They really have a problem with confirming kills in this show, because I don't think they're sure either sometimes. That's how it comes across. So maybe Adam's dead. I don't think he is, because I remember from one of the trailers there's definitely a scene where Kingpin picks somebody up and smashes them through a pillar. I think that's probably going to be Adam. So I presume he's still alive and is now going to be the torture victim of Fisk. He's going to use him to take his aggression out. That's my theory for what's going forward. So Kingpin's still just massively cucked. He's emasculated, he's pathetic, and now he's picking on a man who can't, or barely even, defend himself. This is not the same Kingpin from the Netflix show. It's embarrassing. But hey, he's starting to let the rage out again, which I think is the quote-unquote theme. Yeah, he's using him as a stress ball, essentially, and he's going to kill him, and then that's going to drive a rift between him and his wife once and for all, I would assume. But I don't really care where Kingpin's story is going. It's also very... he has no reason to butt heads with Daredevil yet, until... Before we go to Daredevil and Muse, which is what I'll talk about finally, Episode 6 ends with Kingpin picking out a group of crooked cops who are willing to go, like they are cops who will break the rules, bend the rules, hurt people, quote unquote accidentally kill people. They're bad apples, as the chief of police describes. And he gets them all and he brings them and gives them special armor, and he says, "You're going to be my special anti-vigilante task force," because he doesn't like them vigilantes. And the reason for bringing this group together is not because of Daredevil, because nobody knows Daredevil's back yet. It's specifically because of Muse. I'm not sure the writers of this show know the definition of the word vigilante, because Muse is not a vigilante. He is a criminal and a serial killer. There is a criminality aspect to vigilantism, but if I just go to my alt tab here, I want to be precise. The definition of vigilante is a member of a self-appointed group of citizens who undertake law enforcement in their community without legal authority, typically because the legal agencies are thought to be inadequate, i.e. not necessarily criminally minded people or serial killers. Muse is not killing criminals. He is killing prostitutes, hobos, literally anyone he can find. It doesn't matter to him. I think he's just after their blood. So the anti-vigilante group put together to hunt Muse, the name doesn't make any sense. And Kingpin has no reason to hate vigilantes, and one, in a world of superheroes, and two, because there's not really any. Hector died, or was murdered. The Punisher, he seems to be killing people, so he's as bad as the crooked cops. It sets up, yeah, okay, Swordsman is kind of doing stuff. Kind of. And he's wearing a mask, so I guess, sure, they can go against him. And they spoil where stuff is going in these damn trailers. Like, they did a mid-season trailer because this is episode 6 of 9, or originally it would have been episodes 3 and 4 of 18. Which also makes sense as to why that prison episode would have been originally like episode 3, because it would have been really early on. And the mid-season thing spoils that, like, that evil SWAT team is going to attack Matt in his apartment. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to get there, but they're definitely fighting in his apartment set with him dressed as Daredevil. So I presume Fisk is going to want to take his aggression out on Matt once he learns that he has technically broken their sort of deal where Fisk said, "Don't be Daredevil again." Then that's going to be what causes them to butt heads. It's not going to be Muse necessarily, because Muse gets dealt with by Daredevil. I don't know how Daredevil instantly knows. I was going to say, it's weird. He finds out about Muse because his private investigator comes to him and says, "Look, it's better you hear this from me rather than anyone else. The department's discovered that there's a serial killer that's killed at least 60 people. And then he kind of walks off, and I guess the hint is that he's saying to him, "Look, I don't want you to be Daredevil, so I'm literally telling you this thing that might inspire you to be Daredevil so that you don't be Daredevil. You got it?" Which makes no sense, but whatever. He decides to do it anyway because Hector's daughter is in danger. Don't know how he precisely knows exactly where Muse is. Don't know how he knows what Muse looks like. Maybe he just gives off an evil vibe, I suppose. But he suits up as Daredevil. You see some really, really bad CG of him bouncing and rubbering his way across rooftops with his baton hook. Does not look good, looked really, really bad. And then it breaks into a fight sequence. And I linked it in Discord this morning because somebody illegally uploaded it to YouTube. And when I was watching it for the first time viewing, you know, just watching it for the sake of, I want to know what happens. I want to see where this goes. Even in that viewing where I'm not trying to be critically minded, I noticed that there's one, the CG looked terrible, and two, there was a lot of missed marks in this fight sequence. And what I mean by that is, obviously they're not really hitting each other, but they're not in the right places a lot of the time, so hits very clearly miss, and then they react like, "Oh, you got me," but there was obviously no contact. And I know there's not really contact, but you're supposed to make it look like there is. And even when I was watching it in a non-critical way, I still noticed twice where, you know, there's just no contact at all, and you can really, really tell, and that made it really not great. I mean, the scene in general is fine, the fight is okay, it's certainly the best so far, but that's only because there's not really been any so far. I'm not counting the horrible CG crap they reshot for the remade episode 1. Besides that, there's a little fight in the bank episode when he almost killed those cops at the end of episode 2 that lasted less than 30 seconds, and that's about it. And then in that illegal upload of the fight scene, I've got it up on a tab here, some of the comments just really got my goat. Best fight of the series easily so far. Feels good to see Matt in the suit. Absolutely loving the longer cuts for hand-to-hand combat. That one especially annoys me because there's a cut every 3 seconds. It does not matter that there's cuts. Having cuts is fine, but does this person just not look at what they're saying is great? Because it's filled with cuts. This scene was so good after the amount of quick cut action sequences we've had in the past episodes and the problematic CGI fight in the first one. This feels like a return to the long take action scenes of the OG Daredevil. That one really pissed me off. One, it's filled with cuts, so that's just wrong. The long one-shots, which weren't real one-shots, but they were close to it in the original series, were exceptionally well done. The long one-shot take in season 1 of Daredevil is probably the best because of all the story and emotional stuff going on around it. The one in season 2 is more bombastic, there's more fighting, it involves more people, it involves a lot more moving parts, it's pretty great. And the one in season 3, while I don't think that's great in terms of like being super interesting, it was like 17 minutes long. It is insanely long, and it's Matt having to escape from a prison when Kingpin sends a bunch of criminals after him, because that's when he's worked out who he is. They're really, really good and really well done. And to even compare this 1.5 minute fight with Muse to any of those is an embarrassing insult. I love when Matt screams. I did not. Honestly, one of the best hand-to-hand fight sequences since Captain America Winter Soldier. Go back and watch Cap and Bucky fighting with a knife in Winter Soldier. It is shorter, but it is insanely better than anything with Daredevil and Muse fighting one another. I also didn't like that Muse seemed to know karate. He's throwing out a lot of martial art kicks. I would have preferred if he was just like a bulky dude who could throw Daredevil around a little bit. I don't know about Muse from the comics. I don't know like who he is eventually revealed to be. Perhaps it will explain that he fights like a martial artist. For now though, it feels out of place. It does not feel like he should be matching Matt in those terms. He should be matching him in a different way, just like punching him pretty hard or being able to pick him up and throw him a little bit. But no, also a bit too much CG blood, I would say as well. Still certainly the best fight. I'll agree with the people who are saying this is the best fight in Born Again so far, but that's because the competition is embarrassingly bad. So, yeah. God, the speed of this fight is just like the OG Netflix series, which is peak. It's not. Now that was a legit fight. It was not. Honestly, watch it just once to enjoy it. I linked it in Discord like I said, and then watch it again with a critical eye. Pause if you need to. Watch how many times they very clearly miss each other. The first transition from the tunnel into the main room, they're miles apart, the punch does not connect. When Daredevil knees Muse and then kind of throws him, the knee doesn't even go near his stomach. When he kicks and then he falls backwards, he's very clearly like 2 meters away. It's really obviously badly, I think blocking is the term, I don't know actual terms, but like the spacing is just not great, whatever it's called. Yeah, Street Brawler would have been more fitting, and it would also be a nice thing. Well, I mean, Matt is trained in the martial arts, but he usually prioritizes punching because his father was a boxer. But whatever, the fight was okay. I had a lot of problems with it, and the CG like baton grapple into a flying punch to start it with looked really, really bad. I actually laughed at it. It looked so terrible. The actual kung fu fighting, that was fine. And the part I took most issue with is Matt tries to kill Muse. The fight ends with him wrapping his baton metal wire around Muse's neck and hanging him by the neck and pulling it really hard so his feet lift off the ground. I saw someone in that same comment section saying, oh, he was trying to knock Muse out. No, he was trying to kill that guy. He was strangling him from the neck until he died. The only reason he stops is because the girl he was trying to save, he hears her heart start to give out, so he has to let go to go give her CPR. That's the only reason Muse is alive, and he gets away, presumably. I can't actually remember now. Presumably he does, though. But yeah, Matt was just outright trying to kill him, and the best argument for that I could think of is, well, he heard the guy killed 60 people, so he just wants to get rid of that evil. That's not really, that's a Punisher thing. I know that I said last time, like, maybe he's kind of wavering. If that's what's supposed to be shown here, they did not focus on it enough to show that he's wavering. It looked like he was having fun, which is fine. He's letting the devil out, which is what his father would do when he was boxing. But it doesn't come across that he is actually just like, okay, I'm going to kill this guy. I'm done having fun. He's hit me a few times. I've hit him a few times. I'm now going to show I'm superior by garroting him or hanging. But one or both of those things will happen. But yeah, anyone who says Matt wasn't trying to kill him is wrong. He was trying to kill him 100%, and I really hope they address that. I don't think they will, but I really hope they do. So yeah, I think Muse gets away while he's giving CPR. As someone in the comments was saying, like, oh, please don't be Punisher, please don't be Punisher, as in they think Muse might end up being Punisher. I can't see that happening. Also, the grunts would definitely give away if it was Punisher. It's not him. Muse doesn't make much noise, but you can definitely tell, like, it's not, what's his name, John Bernthal, because he has an exceptionally unique voice and a particular build that doesn't match Muse either. Potentially interesting killer, rather. Like, if they do a lot of stuff with him, that's great. I don't like a lot of the fight. I don't like that Matt tried to murder him, and just like out of nowhere. Where it goes from here, well, I think Muse is probably going to want revenge. They definitely have another fight, because some of it is in the trailers, unless they decided to cut it, of course. It looks like it happens in the same lair, which would not make sense, because you'd think he'd report that shit to the police, but... Episode 5, boring. Episode 6, pretty bad, with one okay-ish, but still not great fight scene. Anyone comparing this to anything from the Netflix show is insane. It's not great. It's got 3 episodes left, and I still don't even really know what the main story is. I'm still just assuming I know what it is, which is kind of Kingpin and Daredevil both falling back into their lots in life. But even if that happens, that probably means that we're not going to see any significant progression until season 2 next year, or sorry, season 5, I guess, next year, because they split what was originally going to be one series of 18 episodes into 2 seasons of 9. So yeah, my theory is the first half of the season Muse was meant to be the big bad. It would force Matt to come out as Daredevil again, which would make Kingpin angry because it breaks their deal, or he just doesn't like vigilantes. Let's pretend the Netflix stuff doesn't count. He just doesn't like vigilantes. So that would make them butt heads, and they would kind of spend the second half of the season being Kingpin versus Daredevil. They're probably still going to end up in that position, with throwing Bullseye in somehow, because they'll have much more freedom to do what they like with the second half. But because they've got this weird Frankenstein's monster of what they originally had for Born Again, plus all the reshoots and rewrites to make it match Netflix, sort of, they've ended up with an absolute mess that has very low highs and very low lows. So I've talked way longer than I thought I would about this, considering how boring episode 5 was. Yeah, I would encourage you to go watch that fight scene I linked in Discord. You can do it now. It's a minute and a half. That will take us that long to get set up to play Repo. So yeah, that's all I have to say about episodes 5 and 6, or 3 and 4, depending on what you want to call them. And it would have to really, really turn things around to make the last 3 episodes even worth watching.